Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We will start shortly. We just give us 1 or 2 minutes time while people are joining. Thank you so much for joining. Meanwhile, just wait for 1 minute. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining. While Praneeth is joining, in the meantime, I'll also set the context of what this series will be about. So at Nasscom, we have recently joined launched an IP enablement program, and this will be a strategic initiative that reshapes our IP landscape, lets innovators understand, protect, and make the best use of intellectual property. And while we do that, we also understand why being a global innovation partner is important. So through this enablement program, we'll be doing various initiatives, including this knowledge series, which will help in raising awareness on the importance of innovation, value of IP, getting legal assistance, and basically shaping the entire IP ecosystem. And to start with this session, we will be focusing on multiple things, including technology from the innovators' point of view. Praneeth will be talking as a co-founder of Galaxy. He will be talking from a founder's point of view, and Gopinath, who is from K&S Partners. He is in patent practice, and he will be talking about from the IP point of view. And this was especially designed for startups, students, innovators across the value chain. And this entire series would be on high impact sectors and will be sector focused. Today we're talking about space tech, and soon we'll also be having an entire series on different sectors: BFSI, healthcare, life sciences, CR&D, and so on. So please keep an eye for the series. Before we start, I'd like to have a short introduction about Praneeth and Gopinath. Praneeth will be speaking first. He's a co-founder and VP of Business Development for Galaxy. He's an alumnus of IIT Madras, and he has been awarded Best Student Entrepreneur and is also a TEDx speaker. Post IIT, he has been part of this deep tech organization called Galaxy. And we'll hear more about what Galaxy does in his presentation today. Gopinath is a partner of patent practice with K&S Partners. He comes with 15 plus years of experience in patenting strategies, and he will be providing opinions on patentability. And you can also ask questions from him about due diligence, infringement analysis, and anything that is in line with managing patents in the innovation space. Firstly, over to you, Praneeth. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll start with the session. Meanwhile, if for the participants, if you have any queries to ask of our speakers, please feel free to either raise your hands or you can drop your questions in the Q&A box or in the chat box. And Praneeth and Gopinath will take it at the end of their presentations. Thank you, and over to you, Praneeth.
Sure. Thank you so much, Kavya, for that very warm introduction, and glad to be here. Thanks to Nasscom for hosting us. I think this is a very interesting series, and space is a good element to be working on. So glad to do this. Right, I'll jump in, share my screen. So I have a very brief presentation that talks us through what is it that we are doing at Galaxy, why is it important, what are the kind of problems that we are solving, and our journey in specific as to how have we built critical technologies that have not existed anywhere in the world, right? And what's the impact that we're creating. So happy to take in any questions on the tech journey, business, whatsoever, towards the end of the presentation. So in one line, the way that we look at Galaxy, the way that we envision is to transform the satellite imagery ecosystem, right? Have clarity like an optical data. So optical clarity, radar precision, right? And synchronized fusion is the tagline that you should keep in mind. And I'll tell you why that is the case. So quickly about us. So we are a team started by 5 of us. So 5 founders, all of us from IIT Madras, coming with very different backgrounds, different domains of expertise and skill sets. The way we met each other was building Hyperloop. Right. So our background is we built India's first functional Hyperloop. We were part of the SpaceX Hyperloop competition organized by Elon Musk, and so we were in the US in 2019 at the SpaceX facility testing our prototypes there. Right, so that's our claim to fame. Some pictures that we look at often in past. Hopping on to Galaxy, we have essentially been incorporated about 4 years, right? Raised about 14 million in capital, filed multiple patents, which you will hear more from Gopinath on details on that. Today, we're about 80-85 members as a team based out of Bangalore, all in, right? And backed by marquee names, right? Now, building something in space isn't as straightforward. So we're backed by names like Infosys, Special Invest, Rain Matter, IdeaForge. So these are all some big names that we are engaged with, who have invested in us, partnered with us, and so on. Right. The largest name, of course, that we're backed with is our Honorable Prime Minister. So we've been privileged to have had the opportunity to speak in Mann Ki Baat with him directly, right, on what we're doing, what is the kind of end-use impact that we're making. And I think that we've not had a moment like that ever in our journey. So yeah, that's about it, right? Getting to what is it that we do at Galaxy? Let's look at the space ecosystem first, right? And you'll realize a problem that exists naturally. So any space technology that is out there in the world is largely solving 3 applications. Number 1 is communications. So all of the internet that you use, all the Starlink, OneWeb names that you hear is all in the communication space, and it's a well commoditized sector. Second, navigation, right? All of your Ola, Uber, Zepto, Zomato, Swiggy, all of these essentially run on navigation as a technology. Again, that comes from space, right? Extremely commoditized. So all of us use it in our mobile phones. But imaging, right? That is not commoditized. We can't think of unicorns like these companies that are built on imaging technologies. And there has to be a reason why imaging has not been commoditized as such. The reason is very simple. Clouds. Right now, of course, I'm not referring to the IT infrastructure clouds. These are actual nature clouds. Now, these are, obstructions. Now, think of you capturing an image with a mobile phone in an airplane, right? All you'd see is that blanket of clouds because these cameras, just like human eyes, cannot see through clouds. Therefore, you don't have data almost 70% of the time, right? Some months it goes 80%, some months it comes down to 30, 40%, but a global average is about 70%. And that leaves us with inconsistent information all through the year. Why is that important? What are we losing because of that? So if you look at the kind of imagery data that's available today, right? An optical image like a simple mobile phone camera, of course, more sophisticated, is very intuitive, but not available, right? On the other hand, radar image, just like your X-rays and CT scans, these can penetrate through clouds. So they become available in all conditions, but they're not intuitive. Therefore, we are saying that because of this inconsistency, right, most use cases get impacted. Think of a use case where a company like an ITC or a Godrej or any agriculture company wants to monitor all active farms across the country, right, on a weekly basis. Now, for that, if you relied on just optical data, you will end up seeing only 30% of the images, right, which is only cloud free data. So your SLAs with the farmers, with its vendors, with its international customers, they're all predictable only for 30%, right? Which is limited success. But the other 70%, you don't have an image to monitor using imagery data. So what is the solution to this? The solution is to bring both of these together, right? So combining the availability of one sensor and intuitiveness of another sensor, right? That's what we are doing. So we are building the world's first multi-sensor satellite, combining SAR and electro-optical on the same platform. So Sync fused with SAR is the technology capability wherein we are not just fusing these two data sets at a software level, but we're also synchronizing the imaging capabilities. Right? So that brings in unparalleled consistency. So almost like you don't have to ever worry about clouds obstructing any image capture. Now, this is what in visuals it would look like, right? Getting the best of both worlds. So imagine a case where you have a pair of vessels. A multispectral image would give you that, hey, these are two vessels, but they're obstructed by clouds, right? A SAR image would give you, any sorts of a view, like an X-ray, right? This could also be a pair of shoes, for instance. You don't know these are vessels because you don't have any context. Whereas our satellites, multi-sensor imaging satellites, would give you clear intuitiveness and you don't have to worry about clouds. Right. So how are we doing this? So our moat is to synchronize these technologies at a hardware level. Right. So when you hear of fusion, it's not as simple as putting software together. We are redesigning the whole satellite, the whole sensor stack from scratch to incline these sensors together to be able to capture at the same time. Right now, mind you, a satellite travels at 7 kilometers per second. So even a 1 second delay in capture between the two sensors means you are off by 7 kilometers on ground, which is a lot of distance. Therefore, the level of synchronization that we are doing is almost like 2 nanoseconds, right? That's the level of precision systems that we are building. Now, this is something that we've been very proud of, right? But you can't leave AI behind. So we've also hopped on to that trend. So we're building a larger mode, like how we say mode plus plus, right? To build generative optical AI models. So what are we doing is SAR data, which is radar imagery 100% available. We are regenerating the optical equivalence so that as end users, we don't have to worry about whether there are clouds or no clouds, right? You will always get a cloud free intuitive image, which no other system in the world can guarantee you today, right? So this is a larger foundational model that we are building in-house, and these capabilities will be rolled out to our customers. Quick sample of one of our trials. So this is a port that we were monitoring, and an optical image. This is an actual optical image that gave us clouds. So you assume that there must be some activity happening here, here, and so on, right? What we did was we picked an equivalent radar image captured around the same time, and then regenerated that into optical data. So that's how we started building more and more context, and that's how data fusion came to life. Right. Now, sorry, who is waiting to get this data, right? Speaking of some business, so that's our tech capability. On the business side, we are essentially serving dual use, right? Both defense and security and commercial and civil. And with Operation Sindoor, we have all seen the importance of imagery data, right? I think it came to public light much more than ever before. So defense is a very large use case for us. In fact, we've had the honor of also contributing in our own ways to Operation Sindoor. So that's on the defense side. Commercial side, also we've been working with various enterprises and civil government bodies in helping them solve some problems. What kind of problems, you ask? In defense, these are more surveillance problems of, is there any new activity happening in the area? Maritime, we identified dark vessels, assess damages for property insurance, monitor agriculture, aquaculture fields, transmission lines, and so on. Right? These are a bunch of use cases that we can do. Right? Then these have not gone over time, right? So we have taken a very step-by-step journey, right? Started in 2021, we first built a simulator at a software level, scaled it to aerial platforms, which is built prototypes on drones and aircrafts, demonstrated our tech capability. Now building the satellite to be launched in a few months and eventually scale to a constellation. Right. The kind of achievements we've had is because this capability does not exist anywhere in the world today. Right. We've had to build it ground up. So it is not an equivalent of, hey, let me buy some technology from any other international country and just build it cheaper in India. Or somebody is offering it at X capability, I will do it at X plus one capability. Right. This is a completely disruptive technology that is being built, and hence the ground up approach that we have adopted for. So what that allows us to do is give a vertically integrated solution, right? Like I mentioned, drones, aerial platforms, and satellite. So we give these imaging capability across altitudes, have a platform management stack, and AI-powered analytics to support all the data that comes out of it. Getting to some visual images, here, having spoken of Galaxy, having spoken of our capabilities, our business model, I'll show you some quick case studies on how satellite imagery, especially our kind of satellite imagery, is solving some of these very critical problems. Right. This is one of the first DroneSAR images that we generated, which also happens to be the first such image generated in India. Right. Till date, there are only 3 agencies in the country that have built SAR capabilities in-house, synthetic aperture radar capabilities. First, ISRO, they have flown on satellites. Second, DRDO, again, they have flown on some space missions and also built something on aircrafts. On drones, we are the first company to have done that. Right. So first agency in the country overall, and this is very high resolution images at 15 centimeter resolution. Quick case studies. So for example, identifying camouflages, right? Common use case in the defense spectrum. So what we did was we set up a scene, right? As you can see, 3 objects that are mentioned here. One, we put up an empty tent. Second, we put up a tent and hid a metal box under it. And third, we kept an open car, which is a metal object, right? When we flew our sensors, we got some very interesting insights. So a multispectral or an optical image would give you the exact same intelligence that there are 2 tents and 1 car, because that is the kind of information that we are able to capture, right? On the other hand, synthetic aperture radar, which is able to penetrate through certain materials, it does not even detect the first tent because it is able to penetrate through the tent material. So all it says is that there are 2 metal objects that are present in the scene, right? But if you were able to fuse this data together, which is what our payload did, you will know that the first object is a decoy, which means it is just something to falsify information and there is nothing hiding underneath. Second, it's a camouflage. So there is something hiding and it's just being covered. And third, of course, it is an open car. So that's the kind of capabilities that these sensors will be able to help solve end use cases. Similarly, other applications on how, if you compare different images, right? An optical image, you can't see very small objects like a street light, right? They're much smaller than the imaging resolution itself. Whereas these street lights get detected in SAR. The reason being, SAR is very sensitive to material properties, right? Just like how an X-ray scan is very sensitive to the bone material and hence detects even the minutest of the cracks, right? That's how SAR is able to capture material properties. So that's the kind of information that you can capture if you were able to bring them together, add more context, and therefore make decisions. Now, this is not just visual. There is also a lot of analytics that can be done, right? So one of the case studies that we did was went back and monitored Hyperloop infrastructure, right? So quick turnaround, given our Hyperloop backgrounds, that project, we had handed it over to IIT Madras to continue in partnership with Indian Railways. And the project has scaled, and recently they have been building a large vacuum tube, which is the world's largest such facility. So they're building a vacuum tube facility inside the IIT Madras campus for this. So what we did was we went back with our drone-based payloads and captured the development of this infrastructure. Now, as you can see, the ground truth, the actual development was 200 meters, and we ended up measuring from our image 202.25 meters. Now, that is a 1% error margin. Now, that's the level of precision that we are able to offer using these imaging capabilities, which traditional images don't have. Now, this is mostly on the defense urban application side. We are also impacting the other extreme end of the ecosystem, which is the farming ecosystem, right? And we like to call them the end users of all technologies that come in. So we're also impacting the end user there. We have built our own software called Galaxy Blue, right? It stands as the world's most advanced geospatial AI software for aquaculture. So quick context, aquaculture is a subsystem domain in the agriculture sector wherein people farm fish, shrimps, crabs, and so on inland, right? And not just fishing in the oceans. So we have built a solution that using imagery data, we map all the ponds, right? And provide tracking intelligence on top of it, right? So we've built capabilities and have mapped about 10 lakh plus ponds globally, which is the largest such database that exists anywhere in the planet today. And this data, we continuously monitor them on a weekly basis. We track how much supply is coming in, right? And thus giving trade intelligence to farmers on when and where should they be selling the data, to the companies on how they should be planning their international trade and procurements, right? So bringing in transparency throughout the supply chain. So monitoring this at a pond level, then aggregating it from village, mandal, district, state, and eventually even country level. So that's the kind of capability that we have built. And this is a commercially live product, right? So for defense products, we've been working with DRDO for a couple of projects. And commercially, we're working with companies like ITC, Godrej, Waterbase, and so on. So it's a commercially live product that way, right? And yeah, so essentially we are a full stack imagery intelligence company building a wide range of capabilities, solving some very fundamental problems that exist in the ecosystem today, right? Of course, our technologies remain very IP heavy. So, that I think is a good cue for Gopinath to take forward and build further, right? But that's about it on Galaxy. Thank you so much for paying attention and happy to take in any questions you may have.
Thank you, Praneeth. That was an excellent presentation. One question. As a founder in SpaceTech space, what do you have to tell for other founders who are up and coming in this sector on innovation, and what is the importance of IPs that you see now that you have 6+ patents?
So if your question is on how IP enablement should happen and, at least in this sector, so space is a sector that is extremely, technology centric. It's not e-commerce where you're just running on finances and operations, right? So as founders, one of the first things that we did even before incorporating was to file a patent for our idea and then incorporate the company, right? Because that's how critical these technologies become. And it's a global play, right? You are not just building technologies for your ecosystem here. I can sit here and serve clients in the US and the Europe, and I don't want companies in Europe to build what I'm building and just offer them at cheaper rates. Right. In such cases, having global patents and things like that become very important for all of us. So I think we've been patent centric from day one, right? And we're in fact very sad about the fact that we can't do more, right? So we keep pushing our teams to file patents. There's a lot more interesting work that we do in house, so we keep doing that. And one of the cases that I want to cite, right, as a founder building a technology heavy business, a good benchmark to have is a company like Aether Energy, right? So if you ever get a chance to go to their office, they don't have a wall of fame with photos and awards. They have a wall of fame with the number of patents they've put. And so is the case with a company like Infosys. So if you ever visit Infosys, they have an engineering division. They have a wall of fame again for all patents and publications they've had. Right now, that's the kind of culture that as deep tech founders we should be enabling. So, and I think we're trying to do that at Galaxy. So that's what I leave with.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Praneet. In case there are any questions that come up, we can address them at the end of the session after Gopinath's presentation also.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Over to you, Gopinath.
Hey, thanks, Kavya. Thank you, Praneeth. I think you made my life simple. You already set the context on a lot of things. Very glad to hear your presentation. I mean, I was amazed to see the development and the journey that Galaxy had ever since inception. Thank you for that. Okay, so Kavya, let me just pull my screen up and then start my presentation. I hope my screen is up, Kavya.
Yes, visible.
Okay. Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, we already heard Praneeth speaking about his journey. And I'll not make the session boring with a lot of gyan around IP, but maybe I thought it will be important to cover about what is the importance of IP, what are the trends that we can see, and what are the strategies that one can see in space technology with respect to IP. Before that, Kavya has already introduced me. I represent the firm KNS Partners, and we are a IP boutique firm having presence in different cities in India. We are present in 7 different cities. We are a firm of about 380 plus people, and I'm one of the partner and a patent attorney practicing in the patenting field for last 15 years. Mechanical engineer by background, but a patent attorney or a lawyer by profession. So I proudly say that I work with a lot of startups, deep tech startups, and also major MNCs in the area of mechanical, electromechanical space, defense related technologies, and helping them to secure their IPs. So that's my role. But as a firm, we do everything under IP. We take care of patents, designs, trademark, copyright, plant varieties. Under IP, we do everything in terms of advisory, prosecution, protection, and transaction. Um, so, I mean, we have more than 30 years of experience serving our clients, international clients, in both international and domestic clients in terms of protecting their IP. Since I spoke more about IP, and also Praneeth rightly mentioned that in a space sector, since this is technology heavy, IP plays a crucial role. Let me just take you all through what is IP, what are different forms of IP, what strategies that one should consider, and what are the benefits that you as a startup can actually avail by filing IP. So IP, it means anything that is created out of intellect, that is our mind. It can be a creative work in the field of art, or it could be a creative work in the field of technology, or it could be a creative design, or anything which is looking attractive, or it can be even a source code or something like that. Such work, if it carries some economical value, meaning thereby it has some economical benefit, that can be protected under IP. Who grants it? Not us. It is granted by government. In India, we have something called as Intellectual Property Office or Indian Patent Office. So they take care of registering any IP that is generated by an individual or an inventor or an applicant. So we have to file for application before the respective IP office to get a protection. So there are different forms of IP that some of you may be already aware. There are trademarks, which are for names, logos, symbols, etc. There is copyright. Copyright is generally applicable for work involved in terms of literary, musical, dramatic work, and things like that. And then there are plant varieties. If there is a different variety of plant, then such different varieties can be, or new variety of plant that can be protected under the Plant Varieties Act. Geographical indication, again, if there is any product which is originating from a specific geography and it carries some significance. One example is Darjeeling tea, and we are in Bangalore, and Mysore is close to us. So there are Mysore sardis, Channapatna toys. All these carry some significance because they're originating from a region. Such IPs get protected under geographical indication. Designs, I mean, if you come up with something which is aesthetically appearing or looking aesthetically good, such such articles can be protected under designs. And then you have patents, which are for technology, and there is something called as trade secret. Though there is no law which protected trade secrets in India, but generally trade secret is also treated as one of the forms of IP, and these generally get protected under contracts and common laws. So these are different types of IP, but I would like to take you through some of these IPs in little more detail, so to set the context. But before that, some benefits of having an IP protection for your technology or any creation that you have are as following. Like, IP can be a USP for your product or service, because if you have IP, you can market it without the fear of someone else copying your technology without your permission. And it can act as a USP when you're selling your product or a service. You can say that, hey, this is a patented product that carries a different value altogether when compared to just a product without any such IP protecting that. And also it helps you to block competitor, because when you develop the technology, obviously you would have spent time, you would have spent efforts and also money. And if you do not protect such technology, then somebody else can easily copy that technology without your permission. Like Praneeth mentioned, sitting in India, he can support, any player in Europe or US. If Praneeth doesn't protect his invention in Europe, then somebody else can easily copy without his permission. And therefore, IP plays a role where you can protect it so that you can block your competitor from using your technology. And also, being a startup, investment or VCs are often get attracted by the number of patents that are filed by a startup, and therefore IP can act as a tool for attracting the investor. And also it builds the reputation. If you come up with some blockbuster technology and if you protect it by the way of IP, that gives you a recognition in the society that you are the inventor or you are the creator of this technology. While even otherwise you can get that name, but still having an IP will give you that strong holding in terms of technology. Once you have the IP, you also have the option of licensing it to someone or monetizing it, because that can act as an additional source of income for you. Because often in the industry it so happens that the technology is shared between the companies so that they can coexist. Once you have an IP, you can actually share the technology with your competitors or your vendors, or with your peer companies, so that you get a licensing fee for month, so that it can act as an additional source of income for you. And also, IP actually puts a fence around the technology, meaning thereby someone else who wants to enter into the space of the technology cannot use it freely. And therefore, that also provides an opportunity for the industry to look for alternate solutions and to also improve on the technology without having to, use the same old technology which is already developed and protected. So there are multifold benefits of protecting IP, not just in the technical field, but also in other fields like creative work or in musical work or in any other field that we talk about. Coming to the space technology, space is definitely a technology-heavy sector. and therefore a lot of innovations get developed in the space technology, and therefore patents become a very important part of space technology. There could be patents related to launch vehicles, satellite communication, or even that imaging technique that Praneeth was explaining. All these can be, considered as a technological development, and they're solving a technical problem, and that can be protected under patents. And there could be brand name, like for example, Galaxy, and then you have ISRO, and you have SpaceX, and all these things are brand names in the space industry. Such things get protected under trademark. And a lot of, the space also has a lot of software in it, and there is also a lot of information which gets collated in a particular format that can fall under copyright. Now let's look at each one of them in a little more detail. Patent, like I mentioned, patent is for the technology, and any technology, be it related to electronics, mechanical, and life sciences, biomedical, any technology that you develop can get protected under patent, but it should solve a technical problem. Merely, I cannot go with an abstract theory or a Newton's third law and apply for a patent, because that is also a technology. But if it is solving a particular technical problem, then such technologies are protected under patents. So patents are also limited period of protection. They get protected for 20 years. Beyond 20 years, it will be free to the public for use of technology, because we cannot enjoy the monopoly perpetually, but you can enjoy it only for a limited period of time. Again, patent protection is territorial in nature. When I say territorial, if you have filed a patent application in India and if you get a grant in India, you have the rights only in India. But if you want to enjoy the monopoly in other countries, you may have to file an application outside India in your respective jurisdictions to stop your competitors from using it. But there is often a misconception. Hey, I have a patent in India. My competitor, can he get a patent in US? No, that is not possible, because if you have filed a patent before your competitor in India, and if it is already protected for you, if it is published, then your patent can act as a prior art for your competitor patent in the US. So you don't have to worry about whether they get a patent in US or not. But what you should be worried is, do I have a business in US? If so, you may have to protect your invention in US so that you can avoid any infringement in US. Patent is often considered as an award to the inventor, because inventor is a person who invents the technology and he has spent time in developing such technology. Often it is considered as an award for the inventor and a reward for the investor, because investor has invested a significant corpus or a money into the development of technology, and therefore having a patent can provide the edge in terms of market, be it in terms of avoiding competitors to copy, or licensing it out to competitors, or having a better brand value once you start marketing the patented technology. A simple process. This is more specific to India. In India, you can file a patent application for both product or a process. It can be for a product or it can be for a process or both. You can directly, being an Indian company, you can directly file an application in India. However, if you're a global company, if you have first filed the application outside India, then if you want to enter India, there are two different routes. One is Paris Convention route, that gives you a time period of 12 months from the first filing date in foreign country to file the application in India. And the second route is a PCT national face filing route that gives you about 31 months time to file the application in India. Similarly, once you file the application in India, being an Indian company, if you want to extend your protection to the other countries, you can do so in a similar sense, that first file the application in India, and then within 12 months, if you want to enter, you can enter through Paris Convention route to other countries. Or if you file a PCT application within 12 months, that will give you a time period of about 30 to 31 months to file the application outside India. So in India, there is no need to file the paper copy of documents to the Indian Patent Office. Everything can be filed electronically, and there are some documents which require to be signed by the inventor or the applicant for submission to the Indian Patent Office. Such documents can be submitted in the scanned copy version, and often executed documents are not required to be submitted in hard copy. And India follows a very simple process of examination of the patent application. Once the patent application is filed, there is something called as a request for examination, which has to be filed. Once the request for examination is filed, Indian Patent Office will take up the application for examination, and they will raise queries. And if those queries are addressed, then they will directly take it up for grant of a patent. If some of the queries remain unanswered, then there will be something called as hearing or the oral proceedings, which will be appointed by the Indian Patent Office. If you are able to convince the examiner that your patent application has a merit, then you will get a grant. So typically, it takes about 3 to 4 years of time in India to get a patent granted from the date of filing. But there are ways and means in which you can expedite the grant of examination, expedite the grant of application. If you're a startup, automatically you will qualify for expediting the grant of a patent application. But all in all, Indian Patent Office is also working on reducing the timeline for examination, because they're adding more examiners and they're trying to reduce the time. If you're an Indian applicant and if you want to file the application outside India, then there is a requirement called as foreign filing license, because if you want to directly file it outside India, Indian Patent Office would like to review whether such invention falls within the category of defense or atomic energy, and then they will give you a clearance. However, if you are filing it in India, no problem. They will take it up for review, and then within 6 weeks, after 6 weeks from the date of filing in India, you can file it outside India without having any worry of foreign filing license. So then the next point, once the patent is granted in India, you may have to pay the maintenance fee to maintain the patent every year. Like I mentioned, it is valid for 20 years. And if as long as you are paying maintenance fee, the patent will be considered as valid or active. If you stop paying maintenance fee, then the patent will be considered as lapsed, so that the technology become free for anyone to use for their benefit. So India also has the provision where, any person who is aggrieved by the patent grant, or even if any person observes that this patent application has no merit, Indian Patent Office provides the provision for challenging the grant of such patent. Like if you see that if any of your competitor patents are not having merit, they do not have the newness, they do not have the novelty, then you can actually challenge such patents by the way of filing opposition. Here is a simple chart which talks about different stages of patenting process in India. Consider you have come up with a technology. It is recommended to file a patent application before you disclose the technology to anyone. Again, Pranit made it very clear that he's and his co-founders actually filed for the patent for their idea even before they came up with the, set up their organization. Because once you kind of disclose the invention to third party, then it will fall into public domain, and that disclosure itself can act as a prior art against your patent application. And therefore, it is always a thumb rule. If you believe this technology carries some technical value or economical value, then it is recommended to file an application before any publication. So once you file the patent application, then obviously it will undergo publication within 18 months, and then request for examination has to be filed. Then the process continues by the way of examination that I explained. But there are ways and means in which you can expedite the publication and also expedite the grant of a patent application, because if you're a startup, then automatically you will fall within the purview of the startup scheme, which is run by the Indian Patent Office. So the next form of IP that I would like to explain to you is design registration. Design registration, though, may not be very, very important for SpaceTech startups, but it is something which can be considered because if you come up with any product which is aesthetically appealing and it drives the customer or the consumer by the way of it looks, then such creations can be protected by the way of design registration. Design registration is registered not for the technology, but for shape, configuration, ornamentation, pattern, composition of lines and colors. If you have developed the product which is purely functional, it may not be design registrable. But if it is developed with the view of aesthetic appeal, then of course it can be applied for a design registration. Unlike patents, designs are shorter. Design provides shorter period of protection. It is for 10 years and it can be extendable by another 5 years. But the good part is design registration process is very simple. You can have the registration concluded within 6 to 9 months of time, and you don't have to pay annual maintenance fee for registering or for maintaining your design. It's one-time fee that you pay for filing. Then it undergoes examination and it gets granted, and it will be valid for the period of 10 years. And then it can be extended by another 5 years by paying only a nominal official fee. So the next IP that I would like to talk about is trademark. Most of you know that the trademark protects name, logos, symbols, etc. You can see that, in this picture, there are different, trademarks. One is Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and then ISRO. So all these are names and logos are protected by the way of trademark, so that no one else can use it freely without the permission of the trademark owner. So trademarks are often considered as very strong protection. They're valid for the initial period of 10 years, and they can be extended by additional period of 10 years indefinitely. As long as you're interested to use that mark and the name, you can continue to renew your trademark registration so that you continue to enjoy the monopoly of the trademark. Then comes copyright. Copyright is for literary work, artistic work, cinematographic work. But the reason why I wanted to indicate this as an important IP for SpaceTech startups is copyright also protects source codes. I mean, often there is a misconception that softwares are not patentable, but that's not true. Softwares are patentable by if you are able to show that software is linked to a hardware and it is solving a technical problem. Even otherwise, if you want to only protect a source code or a software, that can be protected by the way of copyright. So copyright provides you a longest period of protection. I mean, it is for 60 years, I mean, lifetime of the author plus 60 years after their death. So that provides a longer period of protection. But often don't get confused. You can file a patent application for the software which is integrated with the hardware and solving a technical problem. And also, you can file a copyright for the source code. So two can go parallelly. It is not that one or the other. It can be both can go parallelly. So this gives the comprehensive idea about what are the IPs that are applicable for space tech startups. Coming to IP scenario in India. IP ecosystem in India is growing and it is becoming more rigid, more sophisticated in terms of protection. And also there is a steady curve of increase in number of IPs filed in all different fields of IP. There is growth in number of patents being filed. There is a growth in number of designs being filed. There is a growth in number of trademarks being filed year on year. So therefore, India is turning out to be one of the most robust IP protection systems in the emerging markets. And judiciary, both patent office and also courts, are more pro in protection of IP. And also there is no bias against any IP owners. Courts treat both Indian companies and the foreign entities in terms of IP same. There is no bias which is applied. And also there is a provision where there is a similar civil and criminal and border control remedies available. And there is a legal framework which is governing each IP. I explained about patents, I explained about design, trademark, copyright. Each one of them have the strong legal framework in terms of how IP will be examined and how that IP will be granted. So like I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, though trade secrets are often treated as one of the forms of IP, there is no specific law in India which governs trade secrets, but courts often apply contract law as an important, I mean, contracts and the NDAs as a framework for determining the IP which is surrounded by trade secret. Some of the benefits for startups and small entities. I will not read out the definition of startup and the small entity because you are already aware. This is followed based on the updated information that was published recently. I mean, the definition of startup and small entity. If an entity is a startup or a small entity, they can enjoy certain benefits in terms of IP. One, which I already stressed upon a couple of times, that is fast track patent application. You can actually fast track. If you're a startup or a small entity, you are automatically qualifying for the purpose for the for the benefit of fast tracking the examination. You can file for a request for expedited examination. In our experience, though I mentioned here 1 to 1.5 years to be on the safer side, in our experience we have seen patents getting granted if you choose this expedited route within 1 year's time, and even less than 1 year's time from the date of request for examination. And also there is a rebate of about 80% official fee in case of filing patents, and 80% official fee reduction in terms of designs, and about 50% rebate in trademark filing fee if you are a startup or a small entity. So therefore, it is a suggestion that if you are falling within the definition of startup and a small entity, you can consider using this route and expedite your grant and also avail those benefits of fee rebate. I'd like to just show the trends of patent application in India. Like I mentioned, number of patent applications are growing steadily in India. You can see that number of applications being filed have grown significantly from 56,000 in the year 2019-20, that is a COVID year, to more than 1 lakh patent application, 1,10,000 patent applications in the in the just concluded financial year. Likewise, this is a global patent trend. This is sorry for the data only till 2023 because this was available. This was the only available data. Even in global patent trends, you can see that in the SpaceTech sector, number of patent applications filed are increasing steadily over the years. And as recent as 2023, you can see that more than close to 9,000 patent applications are being filed in the area of SpaceTech. Here are the top 10 patent owners globally in the space tech technology. I mean, you can see many Chinese names here. Chinese Academy of Sciences, China Aerospace and Science Technology Corporation, Boeing, Mitsubishi, Airbus. I mean, there are several, even the universities who are contributing towards space technologies. So this is the stats of ISRO. This is from their own website. ISRO has more than 500 patent applications in their name, and about 300 are granted and active, and about 130 are lapsed, and about 90 patent applications are currently under examination. You can also see that ISRO is quite active in protecting copyrights and also trademark. They have filed about 88 copyrights and 13 trademarks in their name. So that gives a clear indication that ISRO actually leads the pack in terms of protecting their innovations by the way of IP in India. And of course, like startups, many startups are also protecting their IP. And we heard from Pranit that his own company, they have filed about 6 patents, and then I'm sure other startups are also in the space tech protecting their technology. So with this, I will end my presentation, and I'll be happy to take questions.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Gopinath. That was an excellent presentation. You gave key insights. I think this in itself should be a separate session because it dives deeper when you take each of those topics separately. And you had made some key points about patenting in India, US, about patenting codes, all of that, which I think is essential for everybody in the tech space because they're all exporting mainly to US and they're all building technology based on codes. So that is important. A quick question. How do you think a strong IP strategy drives innovation? And can you cite some examples? Maybe you don't need to take the names. Of course, you're a lawyer, which can be shared and which cannot. But can you share some examples of, companies or people who have leveraged IP strategies?
Yeah, that's a good question, Kavya. I mean, see, I mean, while in India, IP as such, IP litigation as such is now taking a big shape, I mean, a good shape rather. This is more common in telecommunication. And we as practitioners, we often feel this can come up in other technologies like space and any other technology in coming days. To cite one example, we all hear about these 5G, 6G, 3G. I mean, in the telecommunication field, there are standard essential patents which are filed and protected by major players like Ericsson, Nokia. And here I would like to cite one example. Uh, 10 years back, in India, we used to see a lot of homegrown mobile phone manufacturers like Intex, Lava, Micromax. They all were big names, I mean, at one point of time. And today we don't see them in the market at all. I mean, what is the reason? I mean, it is not just the competition, it's also the IP. So Ericsson actually filed suits against many of these homegrown mobile manufacturers for violating or for copying their IPs, and they ended up successfully enforcing their IPs. The recent case was against Lava. The recent decision came in early this year, where court imposed almost a damages of about 21 million USD. That was a significant damage, where Lava had to literally shut down their shops and to pay those damages to Ericsson. So that's the power of IP. I'm just citing one example, but there are many in the telecommunication field. It all started in India with pharmaceutical field, and then telecommunication has now taken a big leap in terms of IP protection. And of course, I mean, there are other players like Philips and others who are very active in enforcing their IP in India. And we see this is going to increase in coming days. And of course, IP litigation in advanced countries like US and Europe is already in a different scale. And in US, if you infringe someone's IP, then it is as good as shutting the business. I mean, there are good number of case laws which talks about how serious and how heavy the damages are if there is an infringement of IP. So therefore, it is going to be very competitive, and therefore it is always recommended to have clear IP strategy in mind, which path you would like to take. If you believe that you do not want to protect your IP, that's well and good, but have your path clear in terms of you're not infringing anyone else's IP before you launch your product. I mean, it's not always required for you to have an IP to launch your product, but it's always important for one to understand that they're not stepping into IP of others before launching the product.
On the same lines, I think there's a question from Akshaya. Can you give an example of a recent high-level patent battle from India where role of strategy was evident?
Yeah, of course. I think this Intex and Lava cases are quite significant, and also one of the case of Philips, where they were able to get damages awarded even for a patent which lapsed in 2015, because there was an infringement from the year 2012 till 2015. Though the case got settled recently in 2025, but the damages for the 3 years were even significantly high. I think there the strategy of Philips was to, even fight in the court for the lapse patent. They
I
continued
have a
to put their
question
efforts.
for Praneeth. Praneeth, how do you see, in this, because emerging technologies are there and everywhere AI is there, how do you see that technology influencing IP practices?
So I think we just need to be very mindful of what's happening in the market, right? We can't we can't simply, like I said during my presentation, you can't take a technology that exists and add an alpha and do things and say that I created IP myself, right? And that's a common mistake that we have seen leading to such conflicts. So, as as technology builders, I think that's one of the things we should be mindful of how do I position my IP, right? And of course, we also need to be a little street smart about it, not just say that, hey, we shouldn't be underplaying ourselves, but be smart on how we are positioning our capability and what is the unique part, right? Than just competing, apples to apples. What makes us different? In what context? Maybe in a different ecosystem, maybe in a different packaging, right? Those are the kind of variables that I think we should be looking at to avoid these kind of situations.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that again, Prani. I think we are at the close. In case there are no other questions, we will close this session. But thank you so much. This was exactly what we were envisioning this webinar to be. An amalgamation of where tech meets IP, and both of you had given good perspectives about how, from a founder's point of view or an innovator's point of view, as well as from a legal perspective. And the examples that you have all quoted, I think will also go back with the participants, and hope they'll be able to utilize these insights in their business. Thank you once again for taking your time out with us, Praneeth and Gopinath. See you again in some other session with your insights, and thank you all for the participants also for joining. We'll keep you in the loop for the upcoming sessions on the other sectors as well, and we hope to keep this conversation on IP and innovation going. Please reach out to us anytime uh, in case you have any queries related to this segment. We'll be happy to help you out because we have the programs up and about, and we have a lot of experts on board who can support you as well. Thank you. Thank you again so much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. See you.
Bye.
Bye.